I'm suggesting is that when we're speaking about healing and stress and trauma, emphasizing the nervous system a bit more and understanding the importance of this system really changes how we approach it. So one really simple example of the intelligence of our nervous system, and I'm using that word loosely because a lot of people are like, it's, there's different ways to define intelligence. The way that I'm defining it right now is just simply responding to cues in the environment in an adaptive way, a way that's helpful. Like that's the base level of intelligence. And we know that, lizards do that. And they, as far as we know, they don't have this prefrontal cognition going on because they actually have nothing above the limbic system. So they've got nervous system, brainstem, a little bit of like amygdala, and then they don't even have a cortical region. It's the reptilian brain. So we share that brain structure in common with lizards, and yet they're still interacting intelligently with their environment. They're able to hunt down and track food. They're able to regulate their body temperature. They drink when they're thirsty. So one could argue, that that's just a survival thing and it's not intelligent. But what's amazing about the nervous system is if you've ever seen this reflex arc, this is happening below the level of conscious thought. So the example is putting your hand on a hot stove or a hot flame. What happens in sequential order is actually your hand will withdraw itself, then you'll experience pain, and then you will experience the thought, oh, that's hot. Because, and they've been able to measure this, the reflex, if that response to pain had to go all the way through the brain, through the thalamus, to the frontal lobe and say, oh, remove your hand from the flame, back down, even though that could happen in less than a second, it's still much less efficient and fast than just touching the flame. There's a motor response that goes just through our nervous system. It doesn't even hit the brain. They've been able to measure, there's some kind of sensory neuron that hits the spinal cord, there's some kind of integration center within the spinal cord, and then it's affecting the muscle response in a matter of milliseconds. And to me, that's intelligent. That's a very adaptive way of responding to a painful cue in the environment. So that might seem like a tangent, but the reason I use that specific analogy is to show that whether or not we're consciously aware of what our nervous system is doing, it's constantly scanning for threats, responding to different stimuli, and specifically stimuli that's related to survival. So hunger cues, water, thirst cues, sleep cues, but also relational cues. Is there a threatening predator in my environment or another threatening human being? And traumatic cues. So something that's traumatic, our response to that trauma happens below the level of cognitive thought. Is that making sense? That connection and that piece? And so when we speak about trauma, and when I talk about the nervous system, I wanted you to understand that there is some kind of intelligence, however we want to define that, at work that has nothing to do with how we think about it and has everything to do with how we actually feel in direct experience. So the key brand